Please listen carefully.
Can I say, you know how I know that we don't make movies worse by watching them together? Lovebirds, excellent.
Oh, yeah.
One of the best movies of the year.
Yeah.
I almost picked it.
We did a whole episode on it, and then we just never used it.
We can talk about it in this episode, that like one of our lost episodes.
In the archives.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Everyone and Their Sister. I'm Christina.
I'm Natasha.
And I'm Stephanie.
Welcome back to another part of our little best of year wrap up for the month of December. Today we are going to be talking about the best movies of the year. And this one's going to be really interesting because of the weird way movies came out this year, the few that actually managed to make it out. So this will definitely be a little bit of an interesting one. And at the end, we'll do a little wrap up of what are some of the worst movies of the year, of which there was a plenty to choose from, because what did come out this year, a lot of it was fucking garbage. So we'll go into that. But before we get into our full episode, how'd your week go, Guy? What have you guys been doing? What are you up to right now in quarantine?
Nothing.
I mean, I just finished writing a bunch of Christmas cards. So I guess that's what I've been up to. Finishing my Christmas shopping for sure.
I kept falling asleep at 7 p.m. and waking up at 8. And then I am up till 2 and 3 in the morning. So that's me. I got to stop doing that.
That really makes sense as to why you've been so active on the Instagram chat past 11 p.m. Whereas previously, me and Nat would go all night, and Steph would have been in bed, resting peacefully like an angel at 11.
It's always shocking when you respond, Steph. I'm like, what's happening?
She's awake?
I'm a teen girl again. When I would go to bed at 4 and wake up at 8 for my classes. I feel bad. Like I wake up from a nap and I'm like, I feel awful. Why didn't you just sleep all the way through, you dumbass?
Your nap's gonna be in the middle of the day. Take it at lunchtime and then eat while you're working.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can do it.
When we did that little cottage together and we were doing the midday naps at around 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Perfection.
See, I would love a 2 p.m. nap every day. Too bad I have to work, you know?
I'm just saying, just block it out in your timeline. Use that as your lunch hour.
You make a valid point, I must say.
I think you can do it. And I think that not that I don't love having you on Instagram at 2 a.m., but also the more things that are happening on Instagram at 2 a.m., the less likely I am to sleep. And that's been causing me problems as well. Because while I'm not sleeping through my alarms, I am playing a dangerous game of 10 minutes, another 10 minutes, another 10 minutes.
And then it's half an hour and I've not washed my face yet.
Is anybody like, are you guys losing track of time like completely? Like there was one moment where I was reading something and I thought it was still like 10 o'clock and I looked and I was like, why is it so quiet in the house? 1 a.m.
Remember the day I messaged you and I was like, I thought I had been playing Among Us for like an hour, and I was like, oh, I started at 11 and I was looking at the clock on my microwave, but I'm blind, so I thought it said 12. I put on my glasses, it said 2 a.m. I had been playing for 3 hours.
Wow.
There's like a period of time between like 10:30 and 12 that it's like, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 3 hours.
Yeah.
And TikTok was really bad for that. I was on TikTok a lot for like a week, and then I was like, I don't want this, I can't do it. The 60-second TikToks are what make you stay on there for so long, because it's a decent amount of time, but you don't realize it. So getting through 30 TikToks is half an hour.
It's ironic that an app named after the sound of a clock is the thing that keeps destroying the concept of time.
I didn't even realize. I didn't even think about it that much, but you're right.
Definitely didn't think about it that much. But yeah, phone games have become a part of my lexicon, and the phone games are a big time suck. The only thing I'm doing lately that I'm getting any joy out of is not even the games, it's Christmas shopping. I've mentioned a couple times I'm putting together Christmas gifts for you guys in particular, and they're excellent.
I feel stressed.
But it's also,
can't leave up to it.
When I say it's excellent, I mean like I've been buying things for you and then also buying things for me at the same time. So it's like a 3 people thing. So it's also just very enjoyable because I'm buying things for myself and then I'm getting packages and I'm like, one for you, two for me.
Well, I'm already thinking about what I need to buy and I'm like, oh, I need to put a Sephora in order for my gift. Oh, I guess I need to put in other stuff for me.
Oh, the best day in terms of like being a shopping monster recently was the day I told you I put on a pair of jeans and I was like, oof, that those are tighter than they were before. And then so I bought a pair of airy bike shorts and a sweater to make me feel better. That was a $40 purchase that happened just so that I could experience a serotonin boost for 4 seconds.
I'm gonna buy underwear later, and I'm so happy. I'm like thrilled about it.
I love that we're all living great lives.
Yeah,
Truly.
yeah.
And on that note, let's talk about the best movies of the year. Steph, what is something you watched this year that was actually worth watching?
Still, in my head,
Have
I'm
you
like,
still
you
not
haven't
decided?
decided. Well, I was thinking, I was like, you're gonna pick Little Women because I did technically watch that movie January 2020. That was the last and only movie I saw in a theater this year. But I'm not gonna pick that. I think I'm gonna have to do American Murder: The Family Next Door, which is a Netflix movie that came out in September. It's not that long. It's like 82 minutes, the Wikipedia article is telling me. But it's about a man that kills his whole family. And the whole movie or documentary, we'll say, is like, there's no like narrator. There's no overlying someone telling you what's going on. It's just clips that they've all put together that tell the story, because you have like the officer's body cam. You have their home security footage. You have Facebook posts, text messages, the calls that her friend was calling the police department on. You have his confession in the police what is even that called, department,
Like
police
the interrogation room.
Yeah, his interrogation, him getting a polygraph test. So it's all clipped together, so no one's actually telling you the story. You just like, you use your brain and you figure it out. But it's like really fascinating when you, because obviously the man killed his wife and two children. One was, his wife was pregnant, and his two younger daughters. So it kind of like takes you on the story of like why he actually did this, but they give you little pieces here and there, so you don't actually know what's going on until about like, I'd say you realize fairly quickly what's going on. But in maybe 20 minutes, you're like, oh, when he comes home after her friend has reported, basically, I guess we'll talk about the timeline because it's pretty wild. She gets home, the wife gets home. Oh, what's her name? Ooh, hold on, I need to get these people's names.
This is why you gotta have the Wikipedia pulled up.
I do, but they don't have her names in there. That's why I'm mad about it.
I remember one thing that I thought was interesting for this one is that, so the woman that dies, the wife, the mother, is a like MLM like Facebook mom. So she makes a ton of Facebook video posts. And so they have so much video evidence and text messages of all of her interactions. And that made this a wild one.
Shanann is her name.
Shanann.
Yeah, it was like something strange.
Shanann.
It was like not Shannon.
Yeah,
I remember that specifically.
But yeah, I think that's why like the video evidence is so compelling, because like something that could look like something that she put out for the world could look totally innocent, but then with the background of knowing how the murder happened, you're like, look at the way he's looking at her, look at the way she interacts with his family. It's insane.
So Shanann gets home at like 2 a.m. from an MLM conference, which I'm going to, a side note, MLMs have taken over my whole year. Don't know how that happened, but it's true. So she gets home from a conference at 2 a.m. Her friend is worried because she knows Shanann has an appointment at 9, and she said she would like drive her or talk to her, but she hears nothing from her. So the friend calls the police, and not even 12 hours have passed since she got home. You see the husband come in and talk to the police officer, and you can see in his eyes that he's trying to figure out what his alibi is and how he can't figure out anything. And like he's sweating and he's like talking, and it's like really uncomfortable. And then you have a neighbor that has footage, and then the neighbor, Chris, the guy, the murderer. Yes. Chris leaves after looking at this footage, and then the guy who's on the house like, that was so weird. That guy never talks to me. And you're like, oh, what is happening? But you obviously know he killed her. I mean, it's not a shock. As they call family annihilators, which is a wild term.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Also, she has like weird like exercise journey. How he got fit, and the police are like, "You got fit. Wouldn't you want to kill your wife now?" And I was like, "What?"
Like, why is that a thing? You get so hot, you think you can do better than your wife that's like stuck by you, like bullshit.
Well, the fact that like the police are like, this is basically what they do, I was just like, oh shit, does everybody?
I mean, that happened because he got fit. He had a girlfriend while like he was having an affair and he wanted to leave his wife and their two children for this random girl that was like, what the fuck? He murdered his family?
And she didn't know they were coworkers, and she didn't know he was married. But also, when you're working out, you get higher, you get happier. So, like, what's the relation? I'm so happy.
That's some Elle Woods quote right there.
But it's true. You get so happy that you're like, I think I can kill my wife and get away with it. Basically, someone needs to do research into that.
I think like the saddest thing about it was like when the mom of his wife was just like, you didn't have to kill her, you could have just divorced her. I was just like,
truly,
like, why did you go to that extreme?
Also, and I don't know if you have more to say, like, in terms of the timeline stuff, so I don't want to cut you off, but I think what's important to note here, his family is terrible, and one of the strains in their relationship was the way his parents treated her, and at first I was like, whatever, people have this problem, but then you see them at the end, and I was like, oh no, I don't like you at all. No wonder you raised a murderer.
Yeah, defending her son that killed 3 people, 3.5, because she was pregnant. I always don't forget about that. But it's like the dad, like her dad, Shanann's dad, is heartbreaking. Like seeing him in the court case, that was really heartbreaking to see.
Yeah, her brother, oh my god, I still like just his face.
And the girls' footage, like their 2 daughters.
Ugh.
So, yeah.
There's a whole thing where, so the way that this one works out is like you follow the interrogation and they show you all social posts, but then you also see clips from the actual trial. And so at the trial, both her mother gives a statement, and so does his mother, or his mother and father. And the thing I couldn't stand the most is at one point his mother turns around and looks at him and is like, we forgive you. And literally in my house I was like, you're not the one that's allowed to forgive anything. You weren't murdered, and also your grandkids were murdered. Like, you don't, no, not you. No,
I definitely think it's worth a watch. I don't think many murder documentaries are set up in this way, so it's interesting to see what you can do with footage that we are easily available nowadays, and like how you can put that together in a piece of story. Also, where he buried the bodies was insane.
The fact that he just like left the kids in like the water tank thing, I was like, what the fuck?
Like that to me, I'm like, there's something literally wrong. Yeah, you killed someone, but like doing that to the next step put me over the edge. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
The cop footage, when you see it, when he first approached, like the cop first approaches him, he is completely fine. Like he's clearly freaking about his own alibi. He doesn't look like he's worried about like the fact that his wife is missing and his kids are gone. He doesn't look regretful. He doesn't look like he's broken by what he's done, and he clearly remembers what he's done. It's not like it was a blind rage. Like it was calculated. He methodically killed them.
And then when he realizes that they're suspecting him, he says that his wife killed the kids, and then he killed her because of that. He killed all 3 of them. Mm-hmm. But he was like he hated this woman so much. He not only murdered her, he acted like she murdered their children.
And like
what the fuck?
And you see all this like footage, and you're like, no way.
Yeah. When he's sobbing with his father and he admits his father what's happened, it was like, in that moment, I was like, he's sobbing for his life, not even anybody else's.
He wants that fucking girlfriend and him to ride off into the sunset. Again, could have happened if he just divorced her, but you had to go to this extreme.
Really love that this girlfriend was like, nah, we're gonna catch this bitch.
If you like look into it, you hear different sides of the story, and like Chris in jail wrote letters to this person who wrote a book about him. So you have like he's like, I lied about this and this, if you want to look into it further. But
I feel like I don't really care about his point of view.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, I'm not standing his girlfriend or anything, but I just, from the documentary alone, all you see is that she's talking to a police officer and she's like, yeah, we were having an affair. He told me he was going to leave his wife. I wasn't sure if he was going to do it. I genuinely never thought that he would kill them, but he did this. Like, at least from what's shown, she was like,
he told her they were separated, so she didn't even
know he was
with his wife. So I was like, this girl was duped, and even if she didn't quite believe him, she assumed something was not right with the couple anyway. So like this,
It's tragic.
It's an infuriating documentary, basically, because you're like, it
shouldn't have happened. Like, there's no
shouldn't have
way.
happened. Yeah, like, it
Yeah.
was like, I mean, like, no murder should happen, but like,
Specifically,
like,
he could have done literally, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna divorce, I'm gonna leave.
yeah, like, did he just not have enough money? Like, what was going? They had a nice house. Like, clearly somebody's making money. Like,
It was the wife, but like again, if she's making more money than you can do a settlement.
She was in an MLM. She was making nothing.
We don't know when she got into the MLM. She could have been at the top. She could have been in there.
like, okay, if his reason for killing her was the MLM was destroying their relationship, I would have been like, okay.
I mean, I feel like they probably had a lot of issues in their relationship, and you can blame an MLM for a lot of things, but his whole working out, never wanting to have sex thing, like,
oh yeah,
there were just the way that it was, where it was like he never wants to have sex because he's having sex with his mistress. Like, the whole time I thought that it was going to end up that he was on steroids or something like that, and that was like it was killing his sex drive, and it was making him super into working out, and so he was getting very aggressive. Like, I kept waiting for something like that to happen, but in real life things aren't that clean, so it was just a fucking mess.
Yeah, I don't know have much to say, but
I will say one final note. When that came out, one of my favorite tweets about it was this girl on Twitter who was like trying to decide if I want to document if it's scary to document every single part of my life, that there's so much they could make a movie out of it, or should I be documenting everything so that if I get murdered, you know exactly who fucking did it. Like, I was like, that's a good point.
Oh, I do have another point. I lied. They kind of show Shanann in like not a very flattering light. Like, she nagged him. She was hard on him for XYZ, and I it was weird because it was like, you're trying to justify why he did it. Like, why?
Like, I get like they showed her text and she doesn't sound the most like relationship savvy, but I'm like, this is unfiltered. Like, you know, it's probably not as, you know.
Again, she's married to this guy who literally doesn't talk, I don't think, at all.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting there is, you're right, it does kind of come across that way, but I actually think it's because, and this is something that you can look at with like a lot of relationships and just how like so many women are kind of trapped in them, because a lot of the things about her being that way are things she's saying about herself. And it's like, and she's like almost gaslighting herself, I think, because of things he said to her. Because when she's talking to her friends in text are always like, you're not being crazy. It's not too much to ask for him to call his children to say goodnight to them when you're not in the same city. Like, you're not asking a lot. You're not being crazy. But she's always the one to be like, I don't know, maybe I'm being crazy, maybe I'm being naggy, or like, yeah, in a lot of their text exchanges, she's asking him to do things. But if you look at them, they're basic things. Call your fucking kids. Like, just say hello to them. They're your children. They want to hear from you. Like, most of the time, or it's like, I need you to stand up for me with your family. They're being dicks. But because that's how they're talking to each other, and I think of the way that she sees herself, you see a lot of that.
Yeah.
And like, people aren't perfect. I'm sure she was a little bit annoying, but she shouldn't have died, you know?
Yeah. I feel like people had really like polarizing views on her and her personality.
They really did. Like, they tried to assassinate her character.
I remember not just so even after this came out, but I was watching and reading some of the people that were like sharing things when this was all happening. When this was happening, people were like, oh, she's the worst. Like, they saw her Facebook post and they were like, she's so fucking annoying. She's fucking terrible. We don't think that he did this, or like, if he did, we think it's justified. Like, people really hated her for being murdered. It's absolutely absurd.
Is it because he's like he's ugly, but attractive man? Like, that's what I
mean, that's part of it, for sure. He doesn't look creepy.
Yeah, the fact that he is the like all-American boy, and she's just she's a lonely woman on Facebook, like, for sure. All right, Nat.
Yeah, that's all.
All right. Mine will probably be pretty short too. I didn't really watch a lot of movies during COVID. I tried. It's fine. Let's not worry about it. My movie, I think, came out in 2019, but I watched it right before COVID started, so it was definitely this year. It was The Farewell, starring Awkwafina. The movie is, I think it's on Crave or Prime or something. It's on a streaming device, whatever. Watch it. Highly recommend. It's a funny, somewhat uplifting movie. Apparently the director said that the movie is based on an actual lie, so it's like on her own family. I think her name's Lulu Wang. Yeah, like it's like a real story about her own family and her own grandmother. But the story basically centers around Aquafina, who her name I think is Billy in the movie. She reluctantly returns to her family's hometown in China to find that the whole family knows that the matriarch Nai Nai has been given just a few weeks to live, but they decided not to tell Nai Nai that she's going to die in a few weeks because they want her to live her remaining days happy, surrounded by family. So like they make an excuse to gather under the guise of like I think her cousin is having like a last minute wedding with like a woman he doesn't really know that well, but it's fine. Typical. So that's like the reason why everybody's gathering apparently. And like I think anybody who I talked to about this film will know that I've always said within 5 minutes of this film, I was sobbing, cradling a tissue box in my arms the whole time. I didn't stop crying until a good 15 minutes after this movie was done. And my mom was like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I was just like, so it's like, it wasn't even like sad sobs. Some of it was happy sobs. It's a bittersweet movie.
I feel like this is a good cathartic choice.
It is. It's like it's a very cathartic cry when you do it. I felt like a pretty strong connection to this movie specifically because like the matriarch in my own family is going through late stages of dementia. So a lot of the decisions we've been having to make together is what to lie about and what not to lie about because like you don't want to upset somebody that's like sick, right? And so like because of COVID, we can't book like a plane ticket to go visit her. So watching this movie was like heartwarming in that way to see that her like grandmother was happy with like the whole family there and just like having their little happy fun moments. But one of like the funniest things about this movie is like this weird dichotomy throughout like the whole thing. So like it is like based on like a real story, a real lie, whatever, but it's like it's a realistic contemporary movie with like the weirdest, most surreal aspects happening in it at the same time. So there'll be like Aquafina will be like on the couch chatting with her mom about how everybody's lying to their Nai Nai, and then like in the background you'll see an uncle wearing really bright red pants, completely passed out drunk, just like it's like it's a hilarious like what the hell's happening, but at the same time there's like this real serious thing happening, but then it's really light at the same time, which I thought was done beautifully throughout the film. I did read like a Mediaversity review for this film as well because of course I would. It got an A+ by the way, which is love it. And Lee from Mediaversity made this like really great remark about how the film does such a great job at building all these side characters and like she literally says she's like nobody has the excuse anymore to say that like oh I didn't have enough time to like build in really full side characters or like supporting cast members because this film was able to do it and they did it fucking well. Like it was beautifully done. You felt like you knew everybody. The relationships were really clear when somebody hadn't seen somebody in a long time. You could just tell in the way it was done. And it was done well. It wasn't long. It was beautiful. Beautiful film. I don't want to spoil too much because I think everybody should watch it. I don't know if it was nominated for anything, was it? Do we know?
I feel like so few movies came out this year. If you came out, you were nominated for something. Many, many, many nominations.
A Golden
It
Globe.
won a Golden Globe for Aquafina for Best Actress. Won Indie Awards for Best Feature and Best Supporting Female. I don't know why that feels written weird. It won a Gotham Award. It won Sundance, Palm Springs, Santa Barbara.
Okay, great. It got all these nominations, all these awards. It deserved more. We'll argue.
No, girl. I mean, like maybe it did, but there's like 50 awards listed here.
Did it win all of them though? It should have won.
It won a lot of them.
Okay, good.
As a side note, I feel kind of bad for people who were nominated this year because you didn't get the experience of sitting in a theater and picking up your award in a fancy dress. Like I hope they get a redo.
They're probably enjoying it.
Yeah, because I watched I watched the some of the Emmys, and so I was specifically watching the Schitt's Creek feed of like what they were doing at Casa Loma, and I honestly think that would probably be more enjoyable than going to the regular one where you're just
Mhm.
sitting in a fucking like amphitheater the whole time,
Yeah.
and it's like a 4 hour ceremony. This one, when you're not being talked about, you can walk around, you can talk, you can chill, you can live your life. You're hanging out mostly with just people you like. I think that you probably lose a couple of things there, but it seemed good.
I personally missed the photo wall. That's what I'm gonna say. I missed coming on a Sunday, on a Monday, and be like, "These are the dresses I like the most. These are the dresses I like the least. Let's discuss."
Some people still had that. Listen, Zendaya's was excellent. Seeing
Mhm.
Zendaya's photos in her house.
God, guys,
Yeah.
what a good movie. Have you guys seen it?
No.
I haven't yet, but it's been on my list. It's one of those ones where I want to be able to. Sometimes I look at a movie and I'm like, I want to be able to pay attention to this. Like, I want to be
Yeah.
able to sit and I want to be able to
Mhm.
enjoy it. So it's been on my list, but I haven't quite hit it yet.
That's what I like about a movie theater. I'm immersed. I don't look at my phone. I'm
Mhm.
focused. That's what's
This
missing.
one, this one will rope you in. Like you don't feel the time go by for sure. It's like, and I find it really surprising because I do have trouble watching certain types of movies, and this definitely would have classified as one of the ones I would have trouble watching. But it was so good, and also just Aquafina is so good. I'm so glad she's in more things now. Like it's just anyway. Christina, what's your best
All right.
movie?
So this was okay. Given the fact that there actually wasn't a ton of movies that came out this year, this was a little bit difficult. I have to say, this is not my pick, but definitely technically, the absolute best movie that came out this year was His House on Netflix. For me, that
Hmm.
movie is almost untouchable in terms of how good it was. I think it like got wrapped up as a kind of like a holiday horror, but it just absolutely excellent. The only reason I'm not picking that is because the movie I am picking is very I just like you're like I know that technically this is not as good of a movie, but man, I loved it. So it's definitely something like that. And my pick is The Personal History of David Copperfield with Dev Patel. It was supposed to. So I watched this last year in 2019 at TIFF, and it was supposed to come out at some point this year. And with everything going on with COVID, it kept getting sort of pushed back. And finally, it got a digital at home release not that long ago. If you're in Canada, which I think like all of our listeners are, you can go to the Cineplex store. You can rent it. I'm sure you can rent it at like your local, whatever, if you're not. And this is a movie where I have to say, I've watched it both ways now. So I watched it at home and I watched it in a theater. This is one of those movies where I fully believe a home release is the thing to do right now. I do think this movie is better in a theater because this is a retelling of a Charles Dickens book, but the director is Armando Iannucci, and he did The Death of Stalin. He worked on Veep, and he created the original version, like the British version of Veep, which was The Thick of It, which came out like significantly beforehand. For me, Armando Iannucci is kind of similar to N.K. Jemisin, where it's like everything you do, I kind of like. Like there is something about the way you direct characters and the way your scripts are written that just feed me with its right amount of satire. So before I knew anything about what the personal history of David Copperfield was, initially I swear to God I thought it was The Magician. Like I didn't put any brain behind it. I was like, what a weird choice for this man. But okay. I love Death of Stalin. It's easily one of my absolute favorite movies. So I'll go and I'll watch this and I'll love it. And this is Personal History of Copperfield is so different because it's very optimistic. It's not a movie about people being idiots. It's about a movie about people being a person being good and other people near them being good and some of them not, and just how do you overcome the bad shit around you. And David Copperfield, Dev Patel is the perfect person for this. The director Armando was like, when I wrote this, it was Dev Patel. It was Dev Patel from the beginning. There was never anyone else that it could be. And because he cast Dev Patel, what he chose to do was that it's kind of that colorblind casting where anyone is of any race. So like families are made up of like the one of the like side characters is this black woman. Her father is an Asian man. Dev Patel's mother is white. You never see who his father is. Like everything, but his aunt is white, so you assume like his parents are both white. It's just not one of those things that's ever talked about. And yes, that's not the best way to do representation. Like generally, you would acknowledge what it means for these characters to be of different races. But for this particular story, it's not about that. It's just about great actors being really fucking interesting in the roles that they're in. And I think it works really well. He also does this thing where nobody ever has that very put upon historical fiction accent where it's like that very high fake British accent. He's like, and he said this at TIFF, and I just love this because he said a similar thing for Death of Stalin, and I loved it there too. He's like, why would they speak like that if this is their present? Like the whole idea is this is their now, so they would speak the way that we speak now because it's there now. And there was something about them like, I don't know why I like that, but I fucking do.
It also, I definitely think it made it a lot more accessible, like the language. Even if they used the same words, if they had done it in that other way to speak, I don't think it would have been as accessible for sure.
It absolutely wouldn't have. And I think that's something that he does a lot. Like, if you go back to Death of Stalin, even though it's set with Russia, everybody has the world's randomest accents, and nobody's putting on a Russian accent because he was like, if they're speaking English with a Russian accent, that means they're speaking English with a Russian accent. They wouldn't be speaking English. They'd be speaking Russian. So they should all just speak whatever language they speak because that's their language. And it was it's the exact same concept of this. And I just really like what that does for a movie. I like the way that it everything is in the actors in his movies. And David Copperfield is just like that. This is also a story where it opens up with David Copperfield on a stage introducing his story. So you get the idea that the whole movie is his narrative of what happened. And so that gives it a very surreal kind of vibe because it's not like an exact thing. It's not that he walked barefoot for thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. This is his version of events. This is how he viewed the people in his life. And that makes it so great when some of those people are so much larger than life. Like Hugh Laurie is in this movie. Tilda Swinton, Peter Capaldi, Ben Whishaw, like Ben
Whishaw.
They come together to all be these like really cool, like just
I want to watch great this so bad.
It's so good. I literally watched it last night.
I want to watch it so bad.
I'm in love. And also, like, I think the advantage for blind casting for this one, because it's such a well-known book and has been adapted before, it made sense that like you would just know the characters anyway, so casting them however you want, it was like not really like you didn't have to explain anything for this one. I do like the way they changed it to like almost like he's presenting his book as a play at the beginning. I loved that for sure because it's very different from what you would have done back then. It makes more sense for now, and I think that's why it would have also done way better in theaters for sure. I'm just like every bizarre notion. So like if you haven't read the actual book, you don't need to.
No.
Dickens, just like even with his like satire and his like more uplifting books, and this one is supposed to be uplifting and loosely based on his own life, by the way, like this movie did it so much better. It's less depressing because the actual book is super depressing if you actually read it, even though it's quote unquote uplifting at the end. Whatever. No, fuck it. This movie actually is uplifting. It's fucking hilarious. Everything is so bizarre. Like I feel like I was like the whole movie was a fever dream for me, and I just like woke up at the end. It was like, okay, this is life. But yeah, excellent. And Dev Patel, what a fucking hottie.
Remember when I saw him on the street? In Toronto,
we were together.
We saw him watch. What a beautiful man! Just like,
I am so happy he's the lead in this movie because it really makes it. He's so perfect for it. Like, 1000%. And one thing I like too, and I'll say this, it's kind of a spoiler, sort of, but this is a hard movie. Like, I feel like you can kind of see this coming. Overall, there are 2 romances in this story. There's 2 love interests for the main character.
Tell me more.
And one of them does not end up being obviously his end game. Another character is. But what I really like about it is even though that other character could end up being really vilified, like you could absolutely see a world where she doesn't love him anymore because of decisions that he's made or because how much money he has. Like you can see them doing that, but instead it's just a very, again, partially because it's him telling his own story. It's a thing where it's like, you like her. She had the best of intentions. She was very sweet. She didn't fit. It just wasn't the right fit. Like that's literally the line. I don't fit here.
That is actually a redone version for the movie. If you read, this is not a spoiler because this book is how old, but like if you read the original, he actually ends up marrying the first girl and she dies, and that's why he eventually goes to the other woman. And I was like, damn, okay.
Okay, I like this version better because the other woman doesn't deserve that, because the other woman is excellent. She is the smartest character in the whole thing.
Oh, beautifully done.
Nice, I'm excited. I want to watch it.
Highly recommend. It's such a beautiful movie. I love the director. I love everybody that's in it. I think this for me is absolutely my top pick of the year. I'll watch it over and over again.
And of course, my favorite line, remember me at my best.
I need that.
When the character that says that line, when you see him, oh God, like I don't know if they wanted me to hate him. I didn't. I fucking loved him.
No, I think there's maybe only 2 characters in this that you're supposed to genuinely hate. And I think everyone else is, people are complicated. But I think the only 2 people you're genuinely supposed to hate are, in classic Victorian fashion, the step relatives.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I should be watching this movie immediately right now.
I'm so excited for that. I love it.
$4.99 on the Cineplex app, or free with your Steam points.
Oh, shit. Yep.
So, as a reminder, that was my best movie of the year, Personal History of David Copperfield. Go out, watch it right now.
Mine was The Farewell. It is definitely on some sort of streaming app. Please watch it.
Mine is An American Murder, The Family Next Door. Dun, dun, dun.
All right, now we've done the highs, and now it's time for a quick little interlude for the very, very lows. So, Steph, what was the garbage movie of the year for you?
I wouldn't say garbage so much as disappointing to a 10th degree, and that would be To All the Boys I Loved Before 2.
Mm-hmm.
P.S. I Love You. As we discussed before we started recording, this movie was directed by a man, which bad choice. Clearly. You can tell Peter Kavinsky is up his own ass too much to like actually try and act. So there's like one part that's good, and they're like moody broody in an aquarium looking at each other, tense, but like that's the only part. Then you bring in beautiful Jordan Fisher and you underutilize him. Because
although visually this movie was beautiful, but
yeah,
that's it.
So this is my issue, because a woman directed the first one. Excellent. The first one, I remember being blown away by how much I enjoyed that.
I watched that recently.
This is exactly. It's so much better. And then I remember we watched this at your house, so we looked it up. The person that directed the second one, he was the cinematographer on Haunting of Hill House. And that's very obvious for this. But how, for such a fucking popular franchise, how did you go from a very well-established director to who you were allowed to make this movie as a woman to then picking up someone that's never directed a movie before and is good at visuals? The first movie is like nice to look at, but this is not a movie for visuals. It's a romantic comedy. That's not the point.
And like the plot of this movie is that they're gonna break up. There's tension, but it's not executed to my standards that I am expecting.
What I would have loved is I would have loved a director who saw fucking Kavinsky phoning it in
and yelled at him. Come on.
Not just yelled at him, been like, oh, that's how you're going to act? Guess what? She picks Jordan in this one. I make him concerned if he's going to even be in the third movie. Because that's what he needed. Because, I'm sorry, Noah, you haven't actually made any good movies outside of To All the Boys. You're fun to look at. You're a great thirst architect. I support it. But you don't get to walk around like you're a professional actor. I've seen your other movies, okay?
The only reason he's good is because he's playing off Lana Condor. Like, that's the only reason why he is good in the first movie. It's magic between the two of them. She brings you onto a level you have yet to achieve in any other movie that you've done. So you need to be begging on your knees to Lana, being like, oh, I need to bring my A game. And not just phone in him because I think I'm hot and have a bajillion million followers on Instagram.
Because Sierra Burgess is a loser. Nope,
Awful.
Wasn't good in that. The one with the dating app, the two with the dating app wasn't good in those. Terrible. Neither of those. The more like teen dating app one, that one was a little bit better. The girl in that one played off a little bit more, but still not very good. And everything else, it's like he popped into All the Boys I Loved Before, and then he acted like he's the one that made To All the Boys I Loved Before good, and it was like, no, son, it was Lana and the story, and you were just the perfect face to go with it. You are replaceable, and Jordan Fisher is absolutely the replacement.
Yeah. You are just a symptom of something that was great without you.
Yep. It's a syndrome because the kissing booth, which I literally have never watched, I know for a fact that Jordan,
so terrible.
Jacob Elordi, who broke up with Zendaya, mistake of your fucking life, sir. I don't know what happened there. I hope she dumped you. Meaning, like, what am I doing with my life? Couldn't care less about the second movie. Everyone on Tumblr, Twitter is pissed about the fact that he can't give 1 ounce of a shit to publicize this movie. So I'm like, what's happening with these 22, 23-year-old actors that think they're hot shit just because they have one good movie? Like, that's not how you sustain a career. Where is their manager yelling at them, being their mom, being like, what the fuck are you doing? That's my job. I'm going to make that job for me. You need a reality check? I'll come and bring it for you.
I have to say, we got to move on from this, but I think one final note to talk about how bad this was. One of our most popular episodes is we did an entire episode dedicated to All the Boys I've Loved Before. To All the Pods I've Loved Before is a major episode for us. It was really good in terms of like people really liked it. A lot of people listened to it. It's one of our highest listened to show. We did not bother making one for the second one. We haven't talked about it until now.
Yeah.
Because it sucked. Even though we all got together to watch it together back when we could see each other in person, went to Steph's house.
I showed my clothes. Did a fashion show. Sorry. That's it. I'm gonna stop talking. It's like it just like burned my heart. But there's two more movies or one more movie? One more movie. Whenever that
one more
comes out.
Nah. All right. My shitty movie of the year is one I watched, I feel like recently. It might have been 2 months ago. Who knows? It's part of the new Netflix franchise of originals or whatever called Inheritance, starring Lily Collins and Simon Pegg. It is a terrible movie that pretends to be some sort of like mysterious family secrets revealed type of movie. Oh, what is this district attorney gonna do? Is she gonna figure out who this man who's locked in her dad's weird bunker in the forest is? No, it's terrible. I don't even know. I don't know how to describe it. I think that was good enough. It was terrible. I hated every single moment of it. Stop pretending you're something you're not. Terrible.
Seems good.
I just remember that movie ended up being so anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Like, it's building up this whole thing of like, with the tension, here's what's going on, what's gonna happen. I literally, Loki, I watched this movie while I was waxing my legs. I was like, I just need something on in the background. I saw this movie, saw Simon Pegg. I was like, I love Simon Pegg. Done. Put it on. When it ended, I remember being like, wait, what? Like that that was your ending?
The story here is how her dad is a total asshole. Like, what is happening with her father? Who was dead by the beginning of the movie, by the way. This is like post-funeral.
It's like, okay, realistically, a lot of media coming out lately really calling out the fact that in a lot of families, daughters expected to do everything and is hated, and the sons literally don't have to. The sons sneeze and everyone in the family is like, oh, we love you, you're perfect.
They were like, in the freaking will, in the will, this is what made me angry. In the will, he leaves like what, $1 million to his son, donates the rest or something, gives nothing to his daughter. She gets what, a little envelope full of information.
No, he leaves half of his estate to a charity. He gives his, and don't get me wrong, this is also rich people problems. He gives his son $20 million. He gives her $1 million. And like, 1 million is nothing to sneeze at, but when there was 20 million floating around, what the fuck?
Yeah, and I mean, like, this whole movie pretty predictable in the sense that you know what's gonna happen. Again, it pretends to be a secretive, like, high thrill political, I don't even know what. The only good thing about this movie was her cute little family, and that was it.
All the reviews I'm seeing, this is the perfect cure for insomnia. And like, that's it. Everyone keeps saying the same thing. Movie was awful.
It also made no sense constantly. constantly you're like, why wouldn't you just run away? Like it constantly made no
Also,
sense.
yeah, like there were things that she did that I was like, why? Why would you do that? Or like there were it almost like the movie almost kind of promoted being like a crook in politics and Wall Street. It never really countered that point, and I was like, okay. Anyway, terrible. Christina, what was your terrible movie?
So, okay, I'm going to tell you right now. Antebellum, you're on thin ice. I did not pick Antebellum. And the only reason I did not pick Antebellum is Janelle Monáe. That's it. She's the only reason. She keeps being in things that don't deserve her. Antebellum was not bad in that, like, oh, this is a bad movie. It was bad in that, why? This is a terrible decision to make. Every decision made in that movie, absolutely not. But it had Janelle Monáe, so it just ekes out over the genuine worst movie of the year. In terms of like what will go down as the worst movie made in 2020, it's this one. I'm correct about it. And it's Doolittle with Robert Downey Jr. First of all, didn't even know this movie came out. It popped up on Crave a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh, this must be really old. This must be pre-Iron Man. Because why would Robert Downey Jr., who makes a disgusting amount of money for Iron Man, why would he make this? Like, why would he willingly be in this movie? So I thought it was old. Found out it came out earlier this year. I think it was in theaters because it came out January 17th.
It was on every billboard, every bus that passed by. They spent money.
My brain protected me from this information, okay? Because it wasn't until Crave that I even realized it existed. And I'm sorry, like, okay, I get that Doolittle was like a book, and then it was a 1967 movie, and then it was Eddie Murphy. Here's the thing about this. Once you rewrite a character to be black, you don't get to come back and have them be white again. I just, if you really want to remake Dr. Doolittle, you've now set the standard. Dr. Doolittle is black. Green Lantern, black. That's just what it
Eddie
is now.
Murphy, who's going to top that?
It was so much better. And so this one, because the Eddie Murphy Dr. Doolittle is modern for when it was made, this goes back to the 1800s, and it's kind of like the original story or whatever.
What?
Yeah. Yep. It's very... Doolittle is an adventurer, and he has to go like an island, and he had a wife, and the wife went missing, and now he refuses to talk to humans, so he lives in like a random part of a rainforest with all his animal buddies, but then the queen needs his help because she's sick, and so she needs him for some reason because they're friends, and so the queen's daughter goes to this random part of the world to find him. At the same time, a little boy who needs to get a squirrel that he accidentally shot fixed also goes there, and then they go on their little adventure to go save the queen, and then it's just so, oh god, it's so stupid. I literally, here's the level of expectation I had for this movie. It's 11 p.m. midnight. I am chilling on my phone playing games. I just need something in the background while I'm talking to you guys, while I'm playing around with shit. My expectation was all you have to do is be noise, and you will do what I need a movie to do until such a time where I feel like it is respectable for me to go to bed. That's what I'm looking for here. It was so bad at 12:45, I stopped the movie and picked a different movie. And then when I couldn't find anything, I was like, I guess I'm just going to bed then. Like, this movie literally said, no, you should be in bed by 1. That's what happened. It is genuinely so terrible. It has a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's more than The Inheritance.
The lowest percentages right now on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm sure there's like a 3 or a 4% out there. And it's probably not even a bad movie. It's probably like Ghostbusters. What's crazy too is like, here's a list of some of the people who were voices in this movie: Antonio Banderas, Michael Sheen, Emma Thompson, Rami Malek,
What?
John Cena, Camille Nanjiani, Octavia Spencer, Tom Holland, Craig Robertson, Ralph Fiennes, Selena Gomez. Those were voices of animals. How is Robert Downey Jr. in this movie? Who has blackmail against you? That's the question. What is this? This is very Johnny Depp doing Mordecai. It's like, what is going on that you were roped into this? I don't understand. So that is my absolute worst movie. But as I mentioned, Antebellum, thin ice. You're lucky that this came out instead. Thank you guys so much for listening. That was our best movies of 2020. Our next week's episode will be best TV shows of 2020. As always, you can catch us on Twitter and on Instagram at EatsCast or on Pinterest at Everyone and Their Sister Pod. Let us know what are some of your best and worst. Please go watch Personal History. Please go watch Farewell. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Remember me at my best.
Remember us at our best always.
Music credit goes to Jazahar, but please listen carefully, and Clarabelle for wallpaper.
Mistakes were made in the previous episode.